James Hillier, Hillier. Birthday is July 15th, 1932.
Wow. So tell me about your family, your siblings and your parents when you were born and growing up.
I had one sister, one brother, and 32 cousins.
Are you the eldest or
Oh no,
you're the second?
almost the youngest.
Oh, okay.
Well, I am the youngest now,
Yeah.
and the oldest.
Where were you born?
Sparta, Wisconsin.
Could you spell it?
Sparta,
Sparta, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
And tell me about the school you went through.
The schools I went to were local schools, you know. We had one grade school, one intermittent school,
Mm-hmm.
and one high school.
And when did you graduate high school?
I graduated high school 1950,
And what was the name of high school?
Sparta,
Sparta.
yeah.
Did you know anything about Korea at the time?
Zip, nothing. I wasn't a world traveler, and in high school we didn't teach that much international, you know, about countries. You know, we knew about Japan, naturally, and we knew about Indonesia, and the other countries involved in the Second World War. But that was it.
Did you know anything about China?
Oh, yeah.
But you didn't know anything about Korea.
Nothing about Korea.
Did you know where it is?
Well, I found out
But later, right?
later.
So, how did you come to know the breakout of the Korean War?
The breakout,
Yeah,
the start,
yeah. How did you come to know of it?
high school, the news, local news, you know. We were only 14 miles from Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. Big artillery base, Army base.
Fort what?
Fort McCoy,
McCoy.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Army base,
Mm-hmm.
which was home to the Long Tom artillery training. That's what it was. And my uncles were all National Guard. You know, the whole town was National Guard. We were all being prepped for service in the military. Because the Wisconsin boys, the farm boys particularly, were all volunteers. You know, they volunteered in every war that came along. You know, it was beat into our heads that it was a civic duty to serve at least one term in the military. So upon graduation, the high school graduating class of boys would en masse go down to the recruiting station, pick their branch of service and enlist.
So you enlisted, not drafted.
We all did,
You enlist.
yeah.
When did you enlist?
June 1950.
And did you know that you might be dragged into the Korean War by joining the army at the time?
Well, we all knew that. Everybody who graduated knew that. You know, we knew we were going to go and serve in one way or another. And since the Korean War was just starting, we knew that we were going to be serving in Korea.
You knew it.
We all knew it.
But you were not afraid?
Yeah, well, scared to death. Yeah, and but we knew it was part of our duty to our country
Mm-hmm.
to serve one term in the service.
So you were scared to death, but you still
We still,
volunteered to join the Army,
I didn't join the Army, I joined the Army Air Corps,
Air Corps.
yeah. But we all joined, some went in the Navy, some went in the Marines. You know, they all picked their own branch of service, but they all went in. We had 175 boys graduated in the 1950 class, and 175 boys enlisted in one branch or the other of the service.
Mm-hmm. So where did you get the basic?
Basic training,
Yeah,
Lackland Air Force Base, Texas.
Lackland.
Lackland,
Could you spell it?
Lackling.
Mm-hmm. Lackland, Lyn.
Yeah,
Yeah. Lackland Air Base in Texas,
San Antonio, Texas,
San Antonio. Yeah.
right next door to Scott Field.
Yep. And what kind of training did you get?
Well, besides basic training, I got gunnery training,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. All Wisconsin boys are always picked for, you know, particularly the farm boys like myself, were all picked for gunnery school
Mm-hmm.
of one kind or another.
So what was the unit? Army Air Corps what?
Army Air Corps.
There is number or anything?
No, we
No.
were just Army Air Corps.
Okay.
And when I graduated from boot camp, I went to where was it? Harlingen, Texas, where I was assigned to the what was it? The 164th Squadron, you know,
Yeah.
of the Army Air Corps.
Mm-hmm. And then what happened to you?
What happened was more gunnery training.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went up to, what was it, Fort Hood, you know, which is an Army base,
Yeah.
for more gunnery training,
Mm-hmm.
and I graduated. And when I graduated from Army gunnery, I was transferred to the 64th Bomb Squadron of the Air Force, assigned to, what was the name of that place? It was a base in England, RAF station,
Mm-hmm.
Sculthorpe.
And then?
Well, there I was. I was assigned to an aircraft
Mm-hmm.
and got acquainted with the pilot and the co-pilot and so on, and then we started flying missions.
What was the aircraft?
It was a B-45
B-45.
Tornado.
All right. So what happened to you after that?
I was the tail gunner in that aircraft,
Mm-hmm.
which was the only gunnery position there was on the aircraft,
Right.
because it was a jet. Noisy, rattly, no, oh God.
Hmm.
And we did a little bit of training, you know, particularly in low-level gunnery. And then we got assigned to do missions, you know, during the Korean War.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing a lot of low-level gunnery initially. And then as the MiGs got introduced, we climbed altitude and started doing our bombing from higher altitude.
So when did you move to Korea?
We didn't move, we stayed in England.
England.
We would fly to Korea.
From England to
from
Korea?
England. Yeah, from England to Korea. Long flight,
How long?
several hours.
You need a lot of gasoline to
Yeah,
fly,
A lot of fuel.
a lot of fuel, but from
We did-
London directly to Korea or to go to Japan and then come to Korea?
We go to Japan first and refuel, then we go to bomb, in Korea.
When was it?
That was 1951, 1952, 1953,
You've been doing for 2 years,
3 years.
3 years.
We bombed Korea for 3 years,
What kind of bomb did you actually use it?
500 pounders.
500 pounder? That's
Right.
how,
How many could we carry? We could carry, depending upon, the distance we were going.
were you able to check to see if your bombing was correct or not?
No, there were, what do you call them, reconnaissance flights, F-80 shooting stars, that would go up and do a photo run, take pictures of where we had bombed to see if we hit the target, and then schedule another bomb run if we missed, which happened about 50% of the time.
So you were 50% correct and 50% wrong.
Wrong, right. Not very good.
But you were not able to control, right? Just drop it from the sky, right?
Right.
How high was it?
We were flying at 36,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Just drop the bombs and get out of there, go home. Now, if we slowed down, the bomb run, or dropped altitude, then our accuracy increased. But we were also far more vulnerable to
Exactly.
anti-aircraft
Yeah.
and to fighter attack, and the trade-off wasn't worth it.
Right.
We lost 4 bombers. The first day that they tried attacking at lower altitude and lower speed. We sent one group of 4 aircraft up, and they nailed all 4, with MiGs.
Is there a formula how to measure the exact target from the high altitude, like 36,000 feet?
Well, you use a bomb site, the Norton bomb site, which was designed and originally built for the Second World War, for the B-17s. And we used the same bomb site in the Korean War. It wasn't until after the Korean War was over that we got a better bomb site. You'd have to let the air build up under the wings in order to make the turn. It's called air pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And since we had these huge wings that were thick, because they were fuel tanks,
Mm-hmm.
more than they were wings, we could actually turn a tighter turn than a MiG fighter. Okay, so
You mean the B-45 was better than MiG
in turning,
in turning?
yeah,
MiG-19 or what?
MiG 15,
15.
the first one,
And actually MiG-15 is not bomber, it's a jet fighter.
jet fighter.
And it was B-45 was better than MiG-15 in turning.
Right.
I cannot believe that.
It's because of the thinness of the air.
Uh-huh.
The air was thin. So we could turn, and the MiG took 32 miles to make a 90-degree turn. We could make the same turn in 9 miles.
Wow.
So we could turn inside of the fighter by just a few miles.
Just few, but in the air, with the speed of light, it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, it does.
Did you actually encounter with the North Korean MiG?
Oh, yeah.
And did you have an experience shoot it down?
Well, yeah.
Tell me about it.
Well, we would turn inside of them. And once we turned inside, the pilot would put on the dive, we figured it out. So he'd put on the regular brakes and the dive brakes and slow the aircraft down, the bomber, way down. So we'd wait for the MiG, to come by,
Mm-hmm.
and as they would come by, we'd shoot them.
Did you actually shoot it down?
Oh yeah, I
Wow.
shot 3 of them down.
3 of them.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's why we were so classified. We didn't want nobody to know what we were capable of. And it took about 6 months before the North Koreans figured it out. So during that 6 months, they lost every MiG they put up against us. And I have no idea how many they lost, but they lost a few.
I mean, why did you have to come from England? Because there was a lot of other bombers in Okinawa and Japan.
Right,
Why do you have to come from London?
because we weren't supposed to be there. The 47th Bomb Wing was not supposed to be there. We were supposed to be in England guarding the northern approach for A-bombers. For the A-bombs, the nuclear bombs.
This is very interesting.
We were capable of carrying 6 nuclear bombs, and that was our primary purpose. We were sent to England with the job that was told to the press of providing England and France, NATO, with the protection of nuclear retaliation should the Russians decide to attack. And we had nuclear bombs in England, and we had a bomber that was capable of penetrating Russian airspace. We could penetrate about 40 to 50 miles before they even know we were there. And by the time they knew that we were there, they'd send up fighters to intercept us, and we'd outrun them and go up to the Baltic and make a turn and go back to England. So we
What was the purpose to have a nuclear bomb in England?
defense,
For against whom? Soviet Union?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
defend the European alliance, defend England, France, Germany, and the other countries that belong to NATO. We were the defense of NATO as it stood, period.
Mm-hmm. What was your rank at the time?
I was a buck sergeant.
Buck sergeant? Mm-hmm.
I got up to, let's see, what rank did I reach? I reached staff sergeant.
I see.
Okay.
What was your salary at the time as a gunner, tail gunner?
What was I making? About $150 a month. It wasn't a hell of a lot,
So what did you do with that money?
I had to support a family,
Your family?
yeah.
Were you married at the time?
Well, I was, at the end,
At the end.
yeah. To begin with, I wasn't, I was just myself. But I sent money home, to help my parents with the farm. you know.
So, what were you thinking when you were bombing over Korean Peninsula? What were you thinking?
Well, I was hoping that we'd hit the target. You know, that the bombardier would hit the target. So we wouldn't have to come back and bomb that same target the next day.
Were there any dangerous moments?
Lots of them.
Tell me some of the examples. Give me some detail.
When they first started using the MiG fighters, and, you know.
When was it?
I think that was 1951, 52. They started using the MiG fighters. Now, they'd come up to catch us. And initially, you know, they did catch up with a few of us. So we had to get the hell out of there. And then we didn't go back up in that area until we figured out how we could, you know, defend ourselves better. And so that's when we figured out the speed and how we could use speed to outrun, you know, the MiG fighter if we had to. Then we went back bombing. So there was a lull of about 6-8 months.
You were thinking that you were really big part of the Korean War.
We were.
Yes.
We were very classified for a long time. You know,
So when were you discharged from the Air Force?
let's see, I went in 1951 and I got out in 1961.
And did you know when the armistice was signed in 1953?
I was happy to hear that it had stopped, but I didn't necessarily approve of it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I thought we could have kicked their butt if we kept going a little bit longer. But, you know, I'm not the right person to be asking that question. You know, it's the same as what happened in the Vietnamese War. You know, we were bombing the hell out of the North Vietnamese, and then all the demonstrators back in the States, you know, started calling us baby killers and so on and so forth. So then our government negotiated a peace, you know, and gave the North Koreans, the North Vietnamese, we gave them a victory over the South Vietnamese. And in a book that came out about 5 years later, the head army, you know, general for Vietnam wrote that they were just days away from surrendering when the armistice was agreed upon. But that if we had continued the war for another 30 days, the North Vietnamese would have surrendered and given up. And that, the whole, you know, structure of what transpired in Vietnam, North Vietnam, and the whole region would be different today.
Yeah. Have you been back to Korea?
No,
Do you know what happened after the war to Korean people and Korean economy and democracy?
well, democracy's gone up, that I'm aware of. The economy has skyrocketed, and they've built a great country with our help, America's help. They've built a really strong, good defense posture, and their country is thriving, that I know.
So what do you think about that?
I think it's great. I'm glad to have done my part. You know, at least we helped one country. We did it right once.
Yeah. it's a big success out of the Korean War, right?
Right.
I don't think we can find any other better example than the Korean War, right?
No, you can't. I have buddies who have gone over there, and served since I was there. And they like the country. They like the people. A lot of them married Korean girls and brought them back to the States.
Yes.
And they make, they're wonderful people.
Right.
So I was happy and remain happy. And I did my part to help the Korean people to gain their freedom. I wish, my only regret is we didn't stick around to do the same for the North Koreans.
Oh, yeah.
But at least we were 50% successful. And we have a strong ally in the Korean people.
Very strong.
Yeah,
We fought together in the Vietnam War.
I know.
Any other story you want to tell me?
No, I think you got it all.
Any chance there was any time that your airplane was hit by anti-aircraft guns or
Oh yeah,
MiG-15s?
3 times.
Tell me about it.
We got hit by a MiG-15. Put a lot of holes in the aircraft. Caught fire. We had a fire in the tail, which I put out. And because we either put it out or we'd crash. And I got burned pretty badly. And ended up going to Wimpole Park, England eventually, to get healed of my skin grafts and all. So I was in Wimpole Park about 18 months.
So you were wounded
Yeah,
and you got Purple Heart?
oh yeah,
How many?
3.
3 of them. You were scared to death. You thought that you were dying, right? No?
Well, I was pretty sure of it. When you feel hot lead going through your body, you're pretty sure you're going to die. But you do your job anyway, regardless of what the outcome is going to be. Your job came first. Your body and your life came second.
That's very courageous. So, after you bomb, for example, one day, bomb in Korea, and then where did you go?
We'd go back to England.
Directly from there?
Oh no.
So tell me the details of the routings.
The routing would usually be, we'd go back to Japan.
Where?
What was it? It was near Cambridge.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of the base.
Was it Tokyo?
No. Korea.
Yeah, from Korea to Japan. Where Japan?
Oh, Japan, we'd land at, what's the name of that base? It's right close to Tokyo. Can't remember the name of the base.
And then?
And then we'd refuel there,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'd change the markings on the plane because we weren't supposed to be there.
What was the marking when you were in Korea?
It was South Korean
So,
or English.
what was the actual marking? Do you remember?
Well, it was the insignia of the British Air Force or the Scandinavian Air Force.
In Korea, when you were in Korea,
Yeah.
over space, what was the marking?
Well, it was a round mark, several round circles of different colors, which was the insignia of British
British?
Air Force. You know,
And then when you go back to Japan, what did you change into?
we changed it to US markings,
US marking, 47th bomb wings.
right. We weren't supposed to be there. I keep telling you, we were not supposed to be there.
It's a very interesting story.
Yeah, we were undercover, so to speak.
How many of you actually fly back to Korea when you go there?
Oh, all of us would go there.
All of us mean how many craft?
6,
6 aircraft?
Yeah.
6 B-45.
right. That was a group. 6 aircraft to a group. 16 aircraft to a squadron.
Mm-hmm. How many were in squadron?
16,
16. And you were
1.
one squadron? Or what was your unit?
We were one unit. We were one bomber in a squadron of 16.
Then what is the name of the unit that you call? It's not squadron, it's what is it?
Wing.
Wing. Very interesting story. Any other anecdotes or stories that you want to share with me?
Well,
Think about it.
I know.
You know, you didn't tell me about those things. So now you're telling me. And now the young children may know more about what you did.
Yeah. Well, we just bombed the shit out of them frequently. You know, towards the end of the war, you know, we stayed in Japan, in Okinawa, and you know, Japan for what was it, 2 weeks. We stayed, and we bombed every day in North Korea, you know. And we took out a lot of ships, so because we weren't American, and we weren't, you know, Japanese. We were
British.
British
Got it.
that were dropping the bombs. So Haiphong Harbor got pasted a few times. Oops, big mistake.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing these stories and your service, honorable service. And because you did it, we were able to pull this out. Successful economy and very substantive democracy in Korea.
Right,
And we are the strongest ally right now between US and Korea.
right.
So I want to thank you on behalf of Korean nation for your service.
I was happy to do it.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.